The first question I get when I say that I legally immigrated to the United States and became a citizen in 2001 is, how can you be a Republican or a conservative if you're an immigrant? So the first thing we have to do is sort of lay out the terms of law as they exist in American jurisprudence, and that have to do with immigration, which is one of those things that's actually the purview of the federal government. So when you decide to go to another country, and this applies to every country in the world, you either can enter it as a citizen of that country, a naturalized citizen of that country, a visitor on a visitor's visa, or an alien. And you can be a resident alien, and you can also, in the statutes, be an illegal alien. That means that you have chosen to go through none of the aforementioned ways that you present yourself in a consulate, get a visa, become a visitor, whether you overstay or you go through a legal port of entry with felonious papers, or you try some other method of subterfuge to get into the country. Your presence is not through one of the legal avenues. You can also be a refugee and claim asylum. But the big thing that a lot of people talk about is, what do Republicans really feel about immigration, and how can they be anti-immigration? It's simple. We're not. Our story as Americans is completely tied up with immigration, and the history of the country is one of various groups of people coming at various times from different places. And it starts, obviously, with people fleeing the old world and being free, wanting to be free and to set up new lives for themselves in the new world. And America is different from any other country in the world in that it said we all have these rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, whether you're a serf or a commoner or a royal. By the way, those things don't exist anymore. So I was born a British subject, grew up in a Commonwealth country, the island of Jamaica. It's beautiful. But in the 1970s, it dallied with what we and Bernie Sanders would like to call the benign sounding democratic socialism, which it turns out not so benign, because all forms of government coercion come at the tip of a spear or the point of a gun. So when things got incredibly dangerous, my family applied for a visa, a resident alien visa, and took a long time. There was a lot of lines. I was only 11, so some of it is very murky to me, but I do remember, being in the line and being questioned and having to go through lots of paperwork and stamping and presenting your identification. I have friends who emigrated from Italy years ago, and they both had to go through pretty invasive, medical vetting, and it's been sort of standard for a lot of countries that you also have to say when you're going to a country, how are you going to take care of yourself? Either you're sponsored by someone else, or you have a means of employment, or you have enough money in the bank that you're not going to become a ward of the state. So this is a common thing. I'm a mother of a couple college students, one of whom got to study abroad. And when you go to study abroad, you have to apply for a visa to enter those countries. You don't just show up. And when you do show up in another country, you can't take a job there unless you have a work permit, which is to say, it is a not unusual condition that when you enter a sovereign nation that is not your own, there are some steps, there are some hoops to jump through. And it's amazing that in really sort of less than 2 decades, something that everyone was in agreement on, to wit, illegal immigration, is bad. And by the way, bad for everyone, not the least of which are the illegal entrants themselves. In other words, if you break into my house and you have to stay hidden there, you're sort of at the mercy of the people the coyotes who brought you in, or other people, to not let you be found. So it's not good for anyone, least of all people who are coming in illegally. Why is this such a big deal? Why is it xenophobic to be anti-illegal immigration? No, it's actually very much in keeping with the American way. First of all, it takes a lot of time, patience, money, and effort to come to America legally. There's lotteries, there's other ways to get here, but it all involves patience and getting in line. And when you say, okay, everyone who didn't do it the right way now gets to jump in front of everyone else, that's the wrong message, but then creating more of the problem that made the lines long to start with. I like to say when people say, well, we should have open borders, how can we, punish people who are here, who are undocumented? Well, you are taking advantage of them. And I think it's pretty racist myself to say that people from South America mainly, and people always conflate it with being Hispanic. So are you saying that none of these people have the wherewithal or the intelligence to figure out how to go to the embassy or consulate and fill out a form? Or is it that you don't think that they should? You can't have open borders and a really generous welfare state. You have to pick one. So especially if a big welfare state is your gig, then you may want to be rethinking the open borders thing. So when people talk about immigration, always go to the source. See if they're conflating legal with illegal, because that leads to a lot of misunderstanding. I'm sure you've all heard the stat, well, legal immigrants commit less crime than native-born Americans. No, I was gonna do the cough. The truth is that when you come here as a legal immigrant, it's really clear, and in fact, in your paperwork, that if you commit any crime, you can be deported for that. So people who come here legally, we tend to be extra careful, and thus leading to a really low crime rate among legal immigrants. The other thing that I always find interesting is when people go, let's just make everyone citizens. Well, everyone doesn't want to be a citizen. I mean, citizenship was a big step for me because it means, we're no longer dating, we're married. That's a huge step. You have to be willing to say, I am now becoming an American. I'm taking on that mantle. The red, white, and blue is mine. And I was glad to do it, but I didn't do it for 25 years after I got here. So everyone shouldn't be a citizen. Not everyone wants to be a citizen. A path to legality, if someone cut in line, may preclude that in the future. But always just look very carefully. Don't be sort of knee-jerk about, oh, that's anti-immigrant. Is it anti-illegal immigrant? Because I'm sort of anti-illegal breaking and entering. I'm anti-illegal, taking things that don't belong to you. Remember the big controversy over the college admissions? Didn't you feel sort of cheated by the people who paid money to jump ahead of the line and get into really good schools? It's kind of like that. Look, if you come to my house for a party and you're super nice and then you won't leave, there's no pathway to home ownership for you. And I think that's the view of the Republican Party. Again, look in the link that I'm going to provide for the platform, but realize that it's not anti-anyone. It's anti-law breaking and pro people doing things the right way and then not being taken advantage of by anyone else.